Okay, maybe that chapter title is a little dramatic, but I mean, come on, it's me. The 4th season of Taskmaster is not only a return to form for the series after the just plain messy season 3, but it ranks as one of the best seasons ever of the series. I felt like I was punching my beloved uncle repeatedly in the face during the last video, and I also drank way too much after because I was in my feelings, so it's nice to be throwing out compliments again. Season 4 is notable for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, it is perhaps the best task writing ever to grace the show. As I watch, I always keep a running tally of my favorite and my least favorite tasks. This time I had 12 under favorite and only 2 under least favorite. And even those are pretty decent. Like, if I were just watching the show for shits and giggles, I would not fast forward through them. This is connected, I believe, with the scale of the tasks. Taking in all the episodes as a whole, the weaker tasks seem to be those where the ensemble head out to different locations. But there's also so much less location shooting than previous seasons. The vast majority are almost all at the house, which is a huge advantage. I like the quiet intimacy of those tasks, especially considering the creativity of the players, or killing themselves as they try and complete the tasks. Sometimes you don't need yoga mats at the top of a steep hill. Sometimes you only need 3-minute-long, vaguely sexual handshakes. So why was there so little location work? That probably has something to do with the budget. This is the first 8-episode season, which is a major expansion after seasons 2 and 3 only had 5 episodes. Secondly, well, the players are more star-studded than usual, and I bet they didn't come cheap. I'm talking, of course, about the casting of Mel and Noel, which was a huge coup at the time for a number of reasons, not just their own individual popularity. Mel had recently quit her job as the co-host of the Great British Bake Off, along with several other team members, and the event was covered in the mainstream media like some sort of funeral. I'm not gonna lie, I cried when I read the news, and I'm kind of betting you did too. Let me know in the comments below. Unless you didn't, you soulless bastard. Noel took over as one of the new co-hosts immediately after, and continues to do so to the time this video was recorded. Suddenly, there was an opportunity for different generations of Bake Off hosts to face off against one another, even though it's clear from minute 1 that they loved and adore one another. It's no coincidence that the first task of the season sees both of them murdering a cake. The producers knew exactly what they were doing and happily cashed in. And it was a masterstroke. Whenever I recommend Taskmaster to my friends for the 19th time, I tell them to start with this season, because everyone with a soul and 2 thumbs loves the Great British Baking Show, and explaining that dynamic is an easy way to get them to sample. And then, once I've got my claws in... But enough about me. I'm sounding vaguely like a killer, and I don't like when that happens. The other noteworthy thing about Season 4 is the oddest one, and that's the overlapping personalities. Up until this point, and for most of the seasons after, casting is very careful to ensure that each member of the ensemble is vastly different from the others. But here, you can't help but notice the similarities between Noel and Joe, and Mel and Lolly. The 2 men are agents of chaos at their finest, oftentimes grouped together in the edits, because the tasks are very similar. If you hadn't seen a task and I told you how one of them solved it without telling you who it was, chances are you'd have trouble guessing between the boys. Luckily, that's less of a problem between Mel and Lolly. The similarity between the 2 of them has everything to do with their bubbly personalities and their optimism. They are so happy to be there. They're so excited to do every task. They're so supportive of the other teammates. Casting this way seems as nutsy cuckoo as if someone were to change their socks in the middle of a sentence. But even as I point that out, I have to admit that these 2 duos are strong enough individually that they don't cancel each other out, instead adding to the excellence of the task writing and helping to make this a very strong ensemble. Hugh fills that dip role with aplomb, and certainly is leagues better than He Who Shall Not Be Named from Season 3. But he also seems to have performed every task with the assumption that he's going to win, and that I don't give a shit personality grates after episode 2 or 3. He was one of the worst contestants ever at prize tasks, and was so weak at defending his daft choices that he finished last nearly every time. I mean, Malcolm X on a carrot? Really, Hugh? Really? That said, his let's burn it down and see what's left attitude in many of the tape tasks created some genuinely audacious moments, at least when they didn't blow up in Hugh's face. His handling of the task where you had to knock over all the rubber duckies on the wall, the basketball on the treadmill.
Could you pass me the plug?
The plug? Yeah. It's plugged into that, Hugh.
Both of those are Taskmaster legend, and rightly so. Which is why I still kinda like Hugh, despite him being ranked last here, and despite being a mostly terrible contestant. Because there are moments of genius within that man. And because he handled Greg's shit so well in the live shows. And, also because he had a friendship with Mel in the team tasks that seemed genuine and was really sweet. He was about 5 steps below everyone else here, but he still would have done pretty well in season 3. Also, he may have been a serial killer. I feel it's worth mentioning. During the final live task of the season, the players were tasked with drawing ducks. Lolly did, but also wrote the following.
I've drawn a small duck, and I've also written, this has been a wonderful experience, and I will remember it until the day I die, Lolly Galafope.
Aww. You can't say anything bad about Lolly. First, because she's so sweet that you feel like you were punching a puppy if you did. But second, because you genuinely don't want to. She's a good person, through and through, and is always a joy to watch. But personality isn't all you need to be a good Taskmaster contestant, and unfortunately, that's where she falters somewhat. She's invariably the player who reads the task and then does a route one with it, without any flair or invention. Yes, my friends, she's the normal one of the bunch, for better and worse. That said, there are moments when her optimism and personality create a truly beautiful moment on screen. Her turning the cake into a heart on the brick wall. And creating a miniature version of Up with those balloons. It makes me smile so very much. And honestly, perhaps the biggest jaw drop of the season was her in whiteface as Princess Diana. I mean, wow. I think Greg scored her shockingly low on those tasks and several others for no real reason, making jokes that it had everything to do with her age. She ended the show in last place beneath Hugh, which is totally horseshit considering how dependably good she was. Well, okay, how dependably okay she was. I also feel like she's the most miscast in this season because fellow nice human Mel, who's undeniably a better player, got so much more of the optimistic spotlight. Honestly, I wish Lolly had been on a later season. Maybe replacing Ian or Paul on 8, Catherine on 10, something like that. Calm down before you comment blindly. Take your thumbs away from those screens. Now, if you've ever wanted to see the personification of Animal from the Muppets, here you go. It's Noel. He'll walk into any situation, and if no chaos exists, he'll figure out a way to start some. He's also a worthy winner for the season because he was constantly inventive with his interpretation of the tasks. You think back on season 4, and you think specifically of his personal brand of anarchy, like throwing the cake in the washer, or shrinking himself down to the size of a banana to hide himself in the trailer. He is exquisite at that, and also a bunch of other synonyms for exquisite, when performing a task. And you can always see that little glint of evil in his eyes right before he strikes. He's less engaging in the studio, though. Because of everything I just wrote, Noel has to tamp down so much of that chaotic energy to sit across from Greg and be judged by him for his performance. He's very funny, but does seem uncomfortable from time to time in the studio, specifically when taking any sort of criticism. Animals hate cages, and to be clear, that's a reference to the Muppet, not me insulting him. In some ways, he's the perfect Taskmaster contestant, but in others, he seems like a horrible casting choice. Now, a big plus for Noel is that he's an artist, and so many of the tasks this year are art-based. Him snatching the chopping block to draw a portrait of the unseen woman, superb.
Something was telling me to go with a sort of natural base rather than paper, which is quite white and shocking. I thought that's something a little bit more easy on the eye.
As was that toilet paper art. Very underrated. Wow, another sentence I never thought I would say out loud. Anyway, despite my criticisms, Noel is ultimately a great addition to Taskmaster. The more distance you have from the season, the more the in-studio awkwardness sort of disappears from your memory, and all that remains are your memories of him being awesome. This mofo got Hercule Poirot to sign a bean, people. That's not nothing. Oh, Joe came to play, my friends. He showed up fully prepared to make a glorious impression on the audiences, and then he did just that. I love his coat, and his recurring bit of kissing Greg, the Greg painting every time on the lips when he exits the house. He's the most consistently good player this season. He came second to Noel, but Noel found himself floundering at a task he would just give up. Joel is the type of guy who doubles and triples down, even past the point where a sane person would give up. He plays like his life depends on it, and I love it. He sets the bar high right off the bat by blowing the cake up with those fireworks, and meets that level of brilliance often. I mean, he opened the jar of mayo before he even read the task, which means he was born to play Taskmaster.
Am I allowed to do the task if I think I know what the task is without looking at the task? You do whatever you want, Joe. Oh, that was quick.
I also have to shout out his long-distance painting of Greg, which was damn impressive, and the smiling. Oh god, the smiling will haunt my dreams forever. Okay, I also mentioned that task because it has one of the weirdest edits in the entire series. Right before Alex introduces Noel, he crumples his face up as if he's suddenly been punched. The guy truly looks like he's in a ton of pain. And then we cut away half a second later. What the hell was going on there?
Who's that?
It's Mel and Noel.
Good.
Anyway, back to Joel. I mentioned his consistency with tasks, but Joe is also the most consistently funny during live shows. He has a great joke for everything, especially his performance. His reaction shots, second to none. And he can take down another player, usually Hugh, with a single icy dismissive statement. Like Lolly, I wonder if Joe would have been better suited to a different season. Not just so that his Agent of Chaos personality would feel more individual, but probably because he would win. Still, he contributed an embarrassment of riches to Season 4, and I remain a huge fan. Are you a Joe or a Noel fan? Let me know in the comments below. And then there was Mel. Everything Mel does is iconic. Ripping each label off of a task before putting it in her pocket, and her optimism every single time she walks in a room, it's incredible. She would always go outside her comfort zone. Her adoration of every other player in the ensemble, even if she loses a task badly, is the sweetest thing you have ever seen, aside from all the sweet stuff Lolly does. She's proudly eccentric, placing her hamsters in competitions to this day, which makes total sense once you watch her on the show for more than 5 seconds. Her approaches to the tasks are likewise iconic. The woman fully commits herself every single second that she's playing, even if she has misread the task or interprets it in a way that is completely bonkers, which it sometimes is. This is what separates her from the big swings that Hugh takes. He's checked out, but she puts her soul into everything. Also, spoiler alert, it's no coincidence that when I read out my favorite tasks of the season in a few minutes, Mel's work in each is the highlight. She's a light every moment she's on screen, and often when she's not there, you miss her. She's the best player in this stacked cast, and is a shoo-in for my fantasy Taskmaster All-Stars lineup. I can't wait to make that video. The task writing across the board is on a level rarely reached in other seasons. There is absolutely nothing wrong with this task. On a lesser season, it would solidly be middle of the road. But when surrounded by such excellence, it doesn't hold up. Most of the contestants do variations on the same thing, and none of them are very memorable. Joe's reaction to scoring the goal was fun though, so we'll concentrate on the positive. This is the definition of an underperforming prize task. Joe has a good idea by sculpting Greg's face, but didn't follow through with the execution. A Walmart-level beanbag, dollhouse furniture, and Hugh wins by offering his shoulders. Ugh, meh. The group task here is fine, whatever. The reason that it's the worst is because of the aftermath. Noel, Joe, and Lolly are on a team together, and while they are executing the task, Noel has decided to do a Noel thing and decides to stop the clock while Alex is looking the other way, staring out of the gazebo and questioning his life choices, as he is wont to do. The other players were unaware of what Noel did, but a super cranky Greg decided to mess with the entire team, and because of that, everyone got 0 points. It goes beyond being funnily unfair to just sort of plain sad, and is one of the cruelest moments in the series' history. Even worse, Lolly seemed like she was having so much fun before it happened. I feel bad. This task has hilarious punchline after hilarious punchline and one of the wildest final images in a task ever. Lolly just tries to drag the camel through small gaps, as one does. Joe and Hugh try to destroy the camel into nothingness with a blender, with one accidentally sabotaging the other by breaking the blender with his go. Noel also tries to destroy his, but for perhaps the only time in the show, he does not go far enough. And then there's Mel. No other human brain could have thought of Baby Gap, and for that, I salute you. But the funniest moment comes when Alex reveals that he spent hours trying to sew the destroyed camels back together, and the photo reveal of the Frankenstein monster camels had me laughing until my sides hurt. Bravo. Noel, Joe, and Lolly's version of the trailer, fairly straightforward, but made transcendent thanks to the recasting of the entire ensemble with Alex. Against almost any other players, it would have been an easy winner. But then, Mel and Hugh blow everyone's mind by turning the show into a Scandinavian crime drama called Taskmaster. I would watch 6 seasons of this show on Netflix any day. The ratings are down. One of you must die. Your time starts now. I mean, what else can you say? It's totally out of the box. I loved every second. The first task of the season was also the best. Who would have thought that there were so many different ingenious ways to destroy such a beautiful cake? Each destruction perfectly defined the players. Lolly turned the beautiful cake into something even more beautiful. Possible serial killer Hugh turned it into a crime scene from Hannibal. Noel chucked it into the washer, Joe blew it up real good, and Mel, well, she turned it over and squashed it against the table in one of the most perfect 10 seconds of television ever in the history of time. Don't come for me. Each one of those was worthy of 5 stars, and how often can you say that about anything on this show? I had always remembered Season 4 as one of the better ones of Taskmaster, but revisiting it was a joy from beginning to end. I was bummed out about some stuff when I started it, because the world's on fire and we're all doomed in case you didn't know, but this was just the tonic I needed. If Season 2 is the benchmark for excellence, this meets it. Now let's see if Season 5 can exceed it. 5 points. But what did you think? Do you like Scandinavian crime dramas? What do you think Mel did with those Taskmaster stamps? And what's your favorite season of the Great British Bake Off? And why is it Nadia's?